At the beginning of the 1950s, Skorzeny moves to Spain. There is a warrant out for his arrest, but he does not have to fear deportation to Germany or Austria here.
When my father moved to Spain, he was treated well by the Franco regime, because it was a nationalist regime, and he was held in high regard. He was invited. He received medals and gave speeches and kept company with highly decorated military personnel and diplomats. He was very well regarded under Franco.
Every year, Skorzeny participates in a memorial celebration in Spain on the anniversary of Mussolini's death. He frequently travels to Germany and Austria under a false name to visit his former comrades.
He had 2 or 3 SS leaders with him and told me all kinds of things about Madrid and Spain. We want to form a corps there, for a group with which we can start something again. What was really going on in his head, what he planned to start and so on, was never explained. That remained an open question.
Das kam nicht zum Ausdruck, das blieb offen.
Mr. Skorzeny, you have been here in Madrid for 10 years. What are you doing here?
I have an engineering office here, and I primarily work in the steel industry, in the machine industry, and so on.
He represented successful German steel companies and also the Austrian state-owned Fürst.
His plans to become rich as a military advisor or a weapons dealer in South America or the Middle East come to nothing. In businesses where secrecy is paramount, his fame becomes a curse. During the 1960s, he is interviewed more frequently and sometimes by internationally respected media outlets. A high-ranking Nazi willing to talk for hours about his adventures in the war and his meetings with dictators like Hitler, Mussolini and Horthy, as well as his activities after the war.
Well, of all the people that I interviewed, there was Kennedy and Khrushchev, there was Nasser, Chiang Kai-shek, there was Ben-Gurion, Saddam Hussein. But of all the people, I only have a memory of 2, a real strong memory of 2. One of them, of course, is Fidel Castro, and the other one certainly is Otto Skorzeny.
You must have been approached since the war by other nations to indulge in military activities of the kind you indulged in during the war. Is this correct?
Yes, this has happened, yes, exactly. And there is a lot of countries which oppose.
Could you name some of the countries?
Oh, I can name, for instance, United States of America.
They
were nearly the first ones
to
propose
so?
something, yes.
What did they want you to do?
Oh, some special work.
You won't say exactly.
I wouldn't say it. You don't talk about it.
No. Have you been approached by countries like Cuba, for instance?
I was not officially approached, but unofficially I was approached also.
Was this by Castro?
It was first by Castro and now by the enemies of Castro. Everybody wants me.
The way Skorzeny was built up, they gave him a sort of a star status. One might compare him to John Wayne in a cowboy movie. You know, you have all the cowboys and all the Indians running around like mad in the back, but there's John Wayne.
I was the 3rd cargo glider. The first 2 cargo gliders were supposed to provide cover for me, and the 4th cargo glider with its load to approach the hotel.
Skorzeny spends the last years of his life in Madrid and on Mallorca. Right up until the end, he maintains that the accusation that he fought for a criminal regime is unjustified.
I was happy to accept the allegation, as it is the duty of every soldier to prolong the war or to persevere for as long as he is under orders to do so. It is for history to decide if it made sense. I think maybe the time is not yet ripe for this. but I certainly do not regret it personally.
Would you do the same thing today?
I can tell you that I would do it again exactly the same way today.
In 1975, Skorzeny succumbs to lung cancer. He remains a committed National Socialist right up until his death. His cremation in Madrid turns into a demonstration for old and young National Socialists from Spain and Germany.
And the urn was brought to Germany and Austria in a form of relay. I can remember, for example, that there were memorials in Kempten and in Memmingen.
At the cemetery in Döbling, Vienna, old comrades and young admirers gather to pay their last respects to their hero. Several recipients of the Knight's Cross make their way to Vienna, including Luftwaffe aces Hans-Ulrich Rudel and Walter Dahl.
Dahl was annoying and practically dictated the obituary notice with, "Our honor is loyalty," and so on. It didn't suit me at all, but I didn't defend myself against it. A bizarre conflict sprang up around my father's grave. On the one hand, extreme leftists smeared it with red paint. On the other hand, young men held vigils there. For example, on All Souls' Day and All Saints' Day.
There is this photo of my grandfather's grave, and I can remember that there was something unusual about it. You get to the grave, and there are these two guards standing there. Nowhere else but there. And that is my grandfather's grave. My brother and I both did community service rather than go to the army, and broke with the long fraternity tradition. After our great-grandfathers and grandfathers who were in dueling fraternities, I think we were the first to actually reject the idea out of hand.
After my father's death, I often received letters from generally younger people, which surprised me. The basic tone of these Skorzeny idealizers was a certain affinity to National Socialism. And many supporters of my father contacted me, asking me for an autograph or a souvenir.
As far as I'm concerned, they are just silly boys. Their nostalgia is based on certain isolated images of that time in history. The people who still support that kind of thing don't understand the context of the events back then.
Today, Skorzeny's fabricated adventure stories continue their mythical heroism in comics and computer games.
A very bizarre story. You can actually buy an action figure of my father on the internet.
The true story of Skorzeny and National Socialism is gradually being buried under the alleged glamour of his deeds.
To be honest, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that. I don't know what kind of person orders something like that and what they do with it. Just another element in the strange world of people who worship the past.
As far as I'm concerned, Skorzeny wasn't a hero. He was turned into one.
This fascinating exposé of the men and women who came to exemplify the Third Reich continues tomorrow. More of Hitler's idols unmasked at 6, the war zone on yesterday. Next this evening, the Antiques Roadshow.